Hello class, this is Robert. I am the true fashion designer behind this escapade of fictional characters. Manny, you have heard. She's over there. That's Manny. And then we got Victoria over here, which you have not heard for a class yet. And then we also have Zeta, which you have heard. It's just a picture. Now, Manny said in our last class that I had to draw a skeleton. And I figured that y'all would like to see this skeleton. This is what is known as different drawings of something. Here is your stick figure. Here is the actual skeleton. As you can see, it is a skeleton. And I didn't like drawing them either. Then it goes to a drawing called a dummy. That's your character that Manny was talking about how to draw. Then you go to something we haven't gotten into, but we'll get into later, is croquis. This is pictures that you can draw that you can trace after you get through, and you don't have to worry about drawing them out each time. Very important thing for fashion design. I also thought I'd show you the difference between a photograph to an 8.5 head figure to a 10 head figure. This is one I actually drew in school. I'm not the best drawer. And now we'll show you what Manny was showing you here of the 8 heads high. The head is at the top of the head. It is the top. Half of the second one is the shoulder blades and collarbone. And then you go down into the third head. You find half of your upper torso, and then you leave us blank for your waist. And then you go into the fourth head, and you're down there where your lower torso is, and then your legs come in with your cylinders, your joints, and everything. You saw that all with Manny. Hope y'all learned something there. Another way of doing this is stick figures. You do the stick figure. Now this one's turned because of the angle of the body. Then you start putting your cylinders after you get your stick figures. Pretty much the same thing, but you just do it a different way. I have here something else that's interesting. This is a book that shows the woman as an 8.5 high character. 8 heads and a half. She has 3 heads to make the sides of her body. The man has a head and 2 heads sideways to make the side of his body. And he is also 8 heads high. Okay. Some other things that I thought you might be interested in. This was one I drew in school too. This one shows the head, the neck, where the different areas are, the knees, and so on and so forth of the 8 heads high. Now this one is slanted, so you see the slanted lines. That's why it's slanted for different areas in the body. This one here, somewhat the same as the dummy, but shows how the arms move up and down and how the 8 heads comes together with the joints, and as we've talked about. But you see there's slants because the body is slanting. Okay, now to better understand this, I did draw a drawing here. This is the stick figure as you see in the black. That would be this area right here. Okay, that's what you're seeing. Now the dummy is like Manny showed you here. You see the similarity of the 8 heads high, the 3 heads across to the shoulders makes the woman. And then, of course, if you turn it sideways, it would be the man. Okay? And that's sort of what we got for a fashion sketching tutorial here. Our next tutorial, if you'll give me a break, we're going to go into a sewing tutorial. Okay, hello class, we're back again. I do realize that most of y'all probably do not know how to sew, but in the events that turned up here, I have to make a skirt for my wife for her Easter outfit, and I decided that I would let y'all in on this and let you see a little bit of what's going on here. This is very basic, by the way. This was our original design. We run into problems, can't do it fast enough, so we're not going to do this design. So we're doing a wraparound skirt with panels. And the panels will be in different pieces. This would be the piece we're using for the print. And then we're using a black. Okay, we are going to have 5 panels on the front, 2 black, 2 of the crosses, and black in the middle. Well, this is all going to come out to 26 inches in the front. There will be another piece that goes on the back. Okay, the top we're not going to worry about right now. Now, first of all, I'm going to show you how a sketch works. I was talking about tracing paper. Here is our drawing we had. This is what the skirt will look like over the top of this drawing. Get it lined up. And that is what a croquis does. Except I haven't got it lined up. We got too many feet here. I'm bouncing it off too much. Okay, like that. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, the first thing we had to do was we had to pattern draft the patterns. We have 4 panels. 4 panels of the cross print. Don't want to cooperate here. Okay, well, this is the pattern that we made the cross print for. You always want to leave a 1/2 inch to 3/4 seam. Or I take that back. 1/2 inch to 5/8 seam. I like to work with a 1/2 inch. This is what they taught me was best in school, was a 1/2 inch. Your conventional patterns do use a 5/8 seam. Okay, next we have the other parts of the skirts, which if you'll notice, the pattern goes straight down, and then we got a flare. Now to do a flare, you take a ruler, which I seem to have misplaced, and you come from this point. I think the yardstick would be better for this. You come from this point right here, you measure out to the point, forgot to show you, you measure out to the point, which I think was, I can't see the ruler, but you do measure out to the point you want it to come to. Then you take the ruler and you bring it around to that point. This gives you that flare at the bottom, which is angled with the top. You do that on both sides. Again, do your seams. Now we have 6 solid panels. There again, because we have 1 black panel here, 1 black panel here, and 1 black panel here. The same on the reverse side, so that gives us 6 black panels. The panels look like this. Now, for those of you that don't sew, you're probably wondering what these holes are for. This is for lining up things. In other words, when this lines up, this will line up to this piece like this. And what is going to happen is the next piece is going to come like this to the next piece, and then so on and so forth until we get the skirt. Now, as you can see, it's starting to round. This will all be put together and sewn together. When we get through with it, it'll all be one piece. This is a wraparound now. This is not a type of skirt that has a waistband and elastic band to it. It does have a waistband, by the way. I was wrong there. I do have a waistband on this. It all connects to the top. My waistband I have already put together. You take the waistband. Very important too, I forgot to tell you. Grain line shows you measure from the side of your material on this line to this line on both sides. That gives you the straightness of the fabric so it's not crooked. Very important on prints. Now here you see the waistband. We have to put it on the fold. That means that the cloth would be folded like this. And this would be on the fold right here. Makes it one piece. Don't cut your fold, because if you cut your fold, you've cut it into two pieces. Now what we've also done here to save time, we've also come across a 1/2 inch in to show the seam to where we get a good seam on the outside and the back of the skirt. Okay? And that is basically what we're doing here. If you will look over here, we got the sewing machine and we got the serger. We'll be working the most on the serger. I do realize a lot of you may not be used to a serger. I wasn't at first, but I like using a serger more than I do a sewing machine. There is, however, places you have to use a sewing machine because of top stitching, and sometimes you have to tighten stitches from the serger. It's always best to use the serger and the sewing machine both. Okay, with that said, we'll move on. Okay, hello again. As I said, we're going to start some basic sewing for making a wraparound skirt. But before we do that, I wanted to show you, this is my shirt that we have made already. You can see the front of it. This would be the back of it. It's got a cross showing across, and then the sleeves. Okay, so our first thing is, I've already put one together here to show you how this works. You put a seam together, seam to seam like that. Pin it if you'd like to. Sometimes I don't use pins, but I would recommend pins. And then you take it to the serger and you serge it. When you get through serging it, it will look like this. This will be the front, and that would be the back. You have your serge seam. Now on a serge seam, it's different than a sewing machine. You have different threads. There's 4 threads. One is an interlock and the other will sew it together. And then there's another interlock. And I may have not explained that just right, but you get the idea. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to take this to the serger and let you watch me sew it. This is a serger. It has 4 dials here for different thread tensions. You got 4 threads coming into 4 needles here, loopers in the bottom, and 2 needles up top. It's called a serger. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the black of this cross. First of all, we're going to lift this up. We're going to put it down, and you're going to step on the pedal, and you cannot go over a pin on a serger. It will break the needle and possibly the plate. So then we're just going to serge just right down the edge of it like that. Make sure that you're right. And we're just coming down the edge of that black. Just slowly go down the edge of that black. Now I sew faster usually, but I'm just doing this to show you how it works. We're just coming right down the edge of that black. Now you might notice we're taking off a lot more than a 1/2 inch. In this case we had to, because we have to make these crosses look just right when they're sewn together. You have to cut this because it's known as a chain stitch. Now when you come over here, you'll notice that you have the same thing as you had before. Now we have the 2 sections with the black, like I was showing you that we were going to have. Now we're going to take the middle section of the black And again, the cloth's not cooperating. Make sure the top's right. The bottom may be off, but you can trim that up at the bottom, at the end. Okay. As I said, it would be best if you pin it. Like so. Okay. Then we're going to go back over to the serger again after we trip over the chair. A little humor there, as Manny would call it. I hope y'all are enjoying Manny's lessons and Zeta's lessons. Zeta will not be with us that much. She's going to be phased out because, well, she says she's going to college, but we know she's not real, so we're just phasing her out because she's a picture. I cannot change clothes on her or nothing to make her look like she's more real. We will use her from time to time for lectures and just bring her back occasionally. But we have a new one. Her name is Victoria. That's what we named her. She arrived from New Jersey the other day from a model Mannequin shop. We bought her brand new. And we hope you're enjoying this way of teaching, because I don't like boring teaching. So I figured we'd make it fun and use fictional characters in a fictional school. And while we're talking about that, see how this come out? See how that's all put together? Now this is your most important part. It has to stay together up here. If you'll notice when you stretch it, they're the same. Okay? Very easy to do. Now we're going to take the other black piece. We're going to go up here. I'll turn around so we can get to it. My wife will sure tell you I am a nut. Keep telling her she's going to get tired of that one day, but she just keeps on saying, nah, she's not. So she just says it takes a nut to know a nut, so that's what we do. Working on almost 10 years together, so things are going great. All right, back to the sewing. Always make sure you put this down, because what happens is it bunches up, and unlike a sewing machine, this can be a headache and a half. And put your pins where you don't step on them. I can speak from experience, they do not feel good. Okay, as you see, we're coming down that black edge of that cross. I don't know if y'all can see that good. Take it slow. I usually go faster than this, but I want to make sure you know what's going on here. I'm taking I am taking a 1/2 inch seam. You can see right here, I am taking a 1/2 inch seam. Now again, this is a serger. They've gotten a lot cheaper through the years, but they were very expensive when they first came out. And they are very much a headache to thread. They're not like a conventional sewing machine to thread. And there we have the next half. Now we have the whole front of the skirt. That's how the front of the skirt looks. Now we're going to take another panel of black and put it, notice the notches. Now my notches are not perfect, I'm sure, because my cloth moved on me when I was doing it. Again, we're going to take some of these pins over here because we don't want them to end up in feet. As I said, they don't feel too good. We're going to pin it. And you probably would want to pin it a little more than what I do, but that's a difference in a little bit of education and knowing what you're doing. But I would recommend you put a pin here, probably a pin here, and a pin here at least. Now we're going to take it back to the sewing machine. Another important part that I didn't explain to you. Always make sure your seam is underneath. You don't want your seams running wrong way. It's very important that you don't get mixed up on that. Now because we got the cross, we have no cross on this one. So, about to put pins on the floor. We're just going to go over and catch this at a 1/2 inch. Again, pick up your foot, put it down in your 1/2 inch. You've got your 1/2 inch right there, and we're going to go straight across. Again, the pin is coming up. We want to take the pin out. We do not want that going under the serger. It can break loopers, it can break needles, and it can also break plates. And I have found from experience that plates are very expensive. Okay, again, we're just sewing it right straight down the line. Very, very carefully. Now, normally I'd be going at top speed on this. You do want to be careful with a serger because the serger does have a blade. This is a blade and it will cut. It cuts the fabric as you go. This is one good thing about a serger. Okay, now, as you see, this is the back. See how what I was talking about, the seams? Now we do have a pucker here. That shouldn't be there. That means the machine puckered on us. But we won't worry about that right now. Iron can take that out. See, as you see, every seam has to be on the back. Now, if you turn it over to the front, you're starting to see the skirt come together. Here is your side seam. It's going to fold over like that. Now, our next panel is going to go in. Now, we're going to want to put it there, upside down to each other. And see, that's what I mean. I did it wrong. This is the things you got to watch out for. It should have been up on top of this piece. Good example of watching out for that. Glad I did that. Show you how you're not supposed to do it. Because a lot of times teachers don't show you how you're not supposed to do it. They just show you how it's supposed to be done. And then jump all over you if you do it wrong. I'm not that way. We all make mistakes. Okay, we're going to take this back to the serger again. And we're going to hit that black area on that cross again after we pick it up and put it under the foot. That's what happens if you don't put it up under the foot. It bunches up and then it breaks a needle. We've already broke one tonight just getting started. They're really easy to break. And as I said, you always want to take the pin out. Now on a sewing machine, you can sew over them. Not really recommended, but you can sew over them. And again, we're standing right on that cross edge. I don't know if you can see the black on the cross edge there, but that's where we're standing. Taking approximately a 1/2 inch off. There is some area hanging over here that I'm noticing. But that is the way that it needs to be done. You need to stay on the cross. Always come off before you cut it. This is a chain stitch and it will tear loose if you don't get it anchored. So let's see if we're right here. See how this is coming together. This is the front of your skirt. That is the front of your skirt. Now you're looking at the back part of the skirt. Now, what do you see what we're going to do next? We're going to put another black panel in here. This is going to be our middle panel. Again, being careful not to put it in the wrong place. If you have any doubt, you flip it over like this and see that it's going to come out right. If you have a seam coming up here, you know you're wrong. You need to put it on the other side. You're always putting right side to right side when you're sewing. Okay, we take it back to the machine again. We're going to have to flip it over on the back side because, again, we got to line up with the cross. Now see, this is what happens when you don't have enough pins. It starts moving around on you. And this time it did move around on me. So I'm going to have to hold it in place until I get it where I want it. If you're starting out and you don't know much about sewing, I definitely recommend you use pins. Always hold this flat down. You always make sure you're right on the edge. You always make sure your material is not puckering and staying flat. You want to always make sure your machines are oiled up and taken care of too. That's very important also. And there you have it. You have another piece of it. Okay, so now you're looking at we'll get it there someday. There we go. All right, that is the front from there to there. Now you'll see the back is coming together too. See, when this comes across, this is now the back. So now our next angle is going to be another panel of the cross. We find the next black panel, if I can find it. There it is. I had to have my video person show me where it was. Couldn't find it. We will probably have Manny, or excuse me, we will probably have our new teacher, Victoria, over there. Yes, Victoria. She's probably going to be teaching a lesson, maybe on some advanced fashion sketching, or maybe even we may get into some textile too. Okay, again, we're going to lift it up, put it under, and come on. And see, there comes the pin. We got to take the pin out. Getting quite a line of pins there. Starting to look like a pin convention there. My video person is trying to keep from cracking up. She is also learning video too. We're not perfect at none of this. We're just trying to do this to help people out. We will eventually have some full tutorials to buy when I figure out how we all can get it all together and get it where you can download it right offline and not have to wait on it in the mail. Okay, we have the next panel. So far so good, we haven't sewn anything wrong. Just can't get it to lay out right. Okay, so what we have here is just getting very long. This is your front of your skirt. It will go over to here. Now we have one more panel that has to be sewn to this panel. So we're going to turn it over. We're going to put this black piece on here. Another thing that's very important too, this particular fabric is not a fabric that has a side or a bad side to it. You can usually take a piece of fabric and look under the light like this and see if there's a front side or a back side. This one particularly does not have one. So therefore we don't have to worry about right sides or wrong sides. So now we're going to sew it again after we pin it. Better use some of the convention over here, or I have pins in my feet. And as we mentioned, they don't work too good in your feet. I would rather have them in the cloth, wouldn't you? Okay. Some more Manny's humor there. Folks, I believe in getting things to the fun point, not just lectures and trying to tell you something and not, keeping you interested in it. That will take the speed a little faster so y'all can see that the serger does move faster when I'm doing it. So we're going to move fast on this. I almost have it to the floorboard. You have to be careful when you're moving this fast though, because the cloth starts bunching up real fast on you. And there you go. The skirt is now complete all the way around. It measures out at 52 inches. Your waistband will now be put at the top of this to give you your waistband. Now we are later going to put a panel across the whole bottom of it to make this look more feasible to looking really good. Okay, with that said, we're gonna put our facts together here, and then we're gonna get back and we're gonna iron this out and start possibly working on this waistband. Okay. Okay, we're back. Another point I forgot to do here that we need to get done. We need to get the bottom lined up. As you can see, it's real rugged. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the top. We will take pins and do this time. We're going to pin the top together. And what was real important in this is that all this lines up as close as possible. Depending on your sewing, it may not line up just perfect. But then again, who of us are perfect? I know not of one. Okay, now that's all put together. Now what we're going to do, there's a proper way to do this and there's a wrong way to do it. Now a quick way to do it would be just to take the scissors and just trim all this down. That's what most people would do. But believe it or not, it's the wrong way to do it. So what we want to do is we want to find the point that's closest to where we need to go. So we'll say that this one is closest. Okay, it is 15 inches. Actually, take that back. 14 and a half. Okay, so we want to go over here. We want to take a piece of chalk. You buy it in the store. It's called a piece of chalk. Tailor's chalk. What you want to do is you want to find the same length, which will be about right here, which is right. So you want to do your 14 and a half. Wait a minute, I have done something wrong here. Sorry, I looked at the wrong side of the ruler. It is not 14 and a half, it is 21 and a half. Another thing you're going to watch out, rulers go frontwards and backwards. Okay, so 21 and a half. Always recheck your measurements. I'm wrong, it's 20 and a half, not 21 and a half. So 20 and a half would be right here. So 20 and a half would be right here. So we're going to put a mark right there. Okay, and then we're going to go down, and we're going to go 20 and a half again. And then we're going to keep going around this skirt. Make sure you're up here on top right. And you're going to do 20 and a half again. As you can see, it's starting to line up. Now let's just, for the sake of it, cut this and I'll show you what we're talking about. We're going to go straight across the lines. Try not to have the material move on you, which it just did with me. And you're just going to go just like that. And as you see, it's pretty much straight again. Okay, we're going to continue at 20 and a half. Going around. And see, I've got the ruler in the wrong place. You've got to be careful of that. That can really get you messed up. I'm looking for a pencil, and I don't have pencil as chalk. There's a difference. This is flat, pencil's round. Okay, a little Manny humor again there. Oh, by the way, Manny's been with me for a long time. She went all the way through fashion school with me. Put a lot of my design garments on Manny. I guess you could say she's kind of like family. We've been through some hard times together. Lost apartments, had to put her in warehouses and store her up. Staying in school can sometimes be a very hard thing, especially when you got other matters that will cause problems. Another tip you might keep in consideration too is always clean up your fabric, because if you don't, you're going to find it's going to be a mess later. I've learned that from fashion shows when I just decided that I just wasn't going to clean up, just let it go like it was. Well, I let it go like it was, and then I had a bigger mess than I started out with. Took me sometimes a day or two to clean. Fashion show can be very intense. Very rewarding, but very intense that you can get. And it's really hard sometimes to tell what these people really want on our show. Especially if you do any auditions for Project Runway. Very much stressful situation. And as you see, I'm running off the cloth there. So we need to get everything lined up again and get back where we were. Now see, you're liable to have problems with the cloth. It does not like to cooperate sometimes. See, I can't find my mark. I think it's right there. And we should have a pretty good rounded skirt. As you can see, it's still a little bit off. You just cut edges off to make it look right. But in this matter standpoint, we don't have to worry about that because we are going to have a waistband at the top. So when we take this off, you may want to trim this up to up top when we got it this way, just to kind of give it a little edge better for putting it together. Just a little bit. You don't have to do a whole lot. Always throw your trash in a trash can. Okay, now if we take this apart, everything should be pretty much rounded. And let's see if we're right. So you see we have a rounded part there. Nice and round. We do have a little problem right here, which can definitely be taken out real easy if you can get a hold of it. And just kind of run it around, trim it off. And just keep going around. Take a look at it real good. That one has a little bit, but we're not going to worry about it. As you can see, it's pretty well rounded. That's how you round off the bottom of a skirt. Okay, our next step will be ironing. And in that, we'll take a break. Okay, we're back. We're going to be ironing here. Now, iron, I'll have to say, is not one of my best things. I've got more trouble in college for not ironing stuff than you can imagine. But it is the proper way to do things, and it should always be done when you're making clothes. Something I did forget to mention, and it's been mentioned throughout the videos and through the site. We are not a college. We are not an accredited course. We are just a basic showing you how to do fashion in a fun way with fictitious characters and in a fictitious school. With that said, you still have to go to fashion college if you are going to be a fashion designer. I spent 8 years to get a 2-year degree myself. It was very hard, even put me homeless a few times. So it's a very hard life. If that's what you want to do, you do have to go to college. We are not teaching you the college way. Okay, with that being said, we're going to get back to our video. Next thing will be ironing. We want to bring the seam over to the side. We're on the back side of it on the seams, by the way. You want to have your iron hot because this wants to lay down. kind of stretching it as you go just to make sure that it's nice and flat. You may have to run over this several times just to get it to come in there right. Okay, now we're going to have to keep moving it toward me, because we want to flatten every one of these seams outward or inward, whichever way you want to go. I prefer it outward because we can stretch the fabric as we go outward. We're kind of sending it out into the outer limits out there in that black. Little Manny's humor again. Boy, if Manny could talk, she'd be really talking to me right now. Yeah, she would. My wife would be cracking up right now. She has quite a task with me. All right. Sure you heard that little snicker. She's getting ready for her big debut of a solo tomorrow at church. This is one reason why we are making this skirt for her. And the other reason is we like to match in clothing. We like to wear the same designs, especially shirts, to match. And she's made a few dresses herself. I taught her a few things about sewing. I don't claim to be the best teacher. Teaching's not my real thing. Just know what I'm doing. In fact, this is the first time I've ever tried to teach. As you see, we're just flattening the seams out. Now on this one, it doesn't matter which way you go on it because it's not a panel. So you just want to flatten it down one way or the other. Whichever way you choose. Now some of you may be wondering why we're not on the front of the fabric. Okay, the reason we're not on the front of the fabric is we want to lay the seams down first. What happens if you don't lay the seams down first? The seams start going every which way underneath and just folding and making a mess. This way we got the seams going all one direction. With some fabrics you would see the bunch of the seam if it went the wrong way. In other words, if half of it went one way and half of it went the other way, it would look really bad. So moving on along, we're just going down it. Another thing, in people's conventional ironing, they just go down it like this. That is the wrong way to do it. You need to put it down, let it heat up, keep pressing your seam down, and move it. Ever so often move it. It gives you the heat and your steam. Now you do have steam on your iron. You can steam things. If I can get my video person to come up real close, we can show you what these seams are looking like. See, they are flattening out toward the outer limits of black here. Okay, a little more Manny's humor. And folks, she can be quite sarcastic too. We've seen that in other videos, especially the interview with Zeta. Boy, wasn't that something. Zeta and Manny together. I kind of thought it would be fun to have them against each other. Hope you enjoyed that. We were trying to get used to video. For those of you that might want to know, we use a program called Crazy Talk to put the mannequins into to make them talk. It is a program that's out on the market by Reallusion. Very good program. Sat on my computer for a year before I decided to use it. But I used it and now I can't get off of it. It just is great. I like the program. Thing I don't like though is you can't put more than one character into it. Now see, I did something wrong there. See how the seam folded up on me? That's what you don't want. You want to make sure. That's where you might have to steam it a little bit. And there you go. That's how the back looks. Now, for those of y'all that was wondering, we want to go to the front now. Now see how nice the front is laying because we did the seams we did. Now all you got to do is just simply run over the front. Make sure it's nice and straight and clean looking. See how clean that looks? Because of the seams being turned the right way. And you just keep going like that. Right on down the line. See how they're nice and neat? It will lay good then. Now this one's not that important because like we said, there's only one seam. There's no thing. Okay, you may have noticed we've got a little bubble right here on the bottom. Okay, that is because that is a side seam. So what we want to do, we just want to take a little edge off of it. Make it more rounded. Don't have to take a lot, just to edge. Which it didn't come out that great. This fabric will move, cause problems. But we're gonna not worry about it because I just wanted to point it out to you. That's all we wanted to do is just point it out to you. I have my fabric that I'm laying on my table trying to come with the skirt. Okay. See how nice the things are laying. Notice the seams are just laying perfect. You just keep doing that till we get to the end and we're almost there. See now? There it is. And with that, we will move to the next step. Okay, class, that's the end of part 1. For the part 2, we'll get some more into the sewing. Hope you have enjoyed this and move on to part 2. Okay, we'll see you in part 2.